Digital movie downloads. You never quite know what you'll get.
Recycle, regift or resell? What should you do with your old gadgets? Welcome to Vertical Hold, the tech show where we channel surf through the headlines in search of the big picture. I'm Alex Kidman, and I'm joined, as always, by a man who knows everything there is to know about the iPhone 7, Adam Turner. Adam, what's happening in tech news?
Aussies might be able to text or even tweet the cops in times of trouble as part of a wide-ranging review of the 000 emergency services number. All these options and more on the table as part of a wide-ranging review before the service is put out to tender for the next decade.
Tweakers rejoice as there's a new Raspberry Pi computer on a board you can buy. The B Plus model keeps the same basic form factor and indeed the same processor, but it doubles the number of USB ports, reduces the power usage by about 20%, and increases the number of input-output pins, further increasing the capabilities of these tiny education computers.
Google has enabled Android screen mirroring on the Chromecast, letting gadget owners see their device's screen on their TV. While it's a handy workaround for getting iView onto your television, the picture quality still doesn't match Chromecast compatible services such as YouTube and Google Play.
Australian contactless payment options continue to spread. If their incessant slogans haven't driven you around the edge, Coles will offer you a payment sticker that you whack on the back of your phone, which, when combined with a Coles credit card, allow you to do a bit of touch-free shopping. Meanwhile, on the credit union side of things, Cuscal's touch-free service works with Android NFC-enabled phones to allow the same kind of tap-and-go payment service. So Adam, Apple's announced the availability of iTunes Extras, designed to compete with the kind of stuff that you get if you buy a physical DVD or Blu-ray. You've been looking into this, but it's not really a clear picture, is it?
Yeah, the problem with this stuff is you never know what you're going to get, and that's pretty frustrating when you're handing over your money. I had a look at it because iTunes Extras has been around for a while, and it worked on iTunes on your Mac and on an Apple TV. Then a couple of years ago they got rid of it from the Apple TV and it only worked on a computer. But now they've brought it back to the Apple TV, and they're also bringing it to iOS 8 when that comes out. So when you buy
so you'd be able to
iTunes,
watch it on an iPad or an iPhone or something like that.
Yeah, so you'd be able to watch it on an iPad or an iPhone. So it's kind of making up for, as you say, when you buy a movie on disc, you get these extra features. You might want to move to digital downloads, but now you lose all these extra features, and you might like the deleted scenes or whatever else was on the disc. So this is Apple's way of saying, no, you really should keep buying digital stuff. Trust me, you're not missing out. But maybe you are, and maybe you're not, and you never know until you hand over your money.
Yeah. I think that's particularly important given that largely for the digital downloads, you pay the same as you do for a disc.
That's the thing, you pay the same. Sometimes you get more, sometimes you get less, and it's pretty hard to know what you get until you hand over your money, and iTunes Extra is a good example of that. There's no real explanation from Apple as to what the iTunes Extras are that you get. You can look at a screenshot of it through iTunes in your computer, but you still don't quite know if how it weighs up against the disc. So I bought Frozen from iTunes in HD. That's the thing, you have to buy the HD version to get the extras, which is a bit annoying if, like me, you're not on a really fast internet connection. Bought Frozen, had a look at the extras, went down to the shop, got Frozen on Blu-ray so I could have a look at the extras on that too and compare it. Now this is where it starts to get even more complicated, because when you buy a movie on Blu-ray you think, oh, that's okay, I'll get the digital copy as well sometimes, and if I bought the Blu-ray version I'll get the HD. Maybe not. If it's an UltraViolet disc, you should get the HD version if it's Blu-ray. If it's a one with an iTunes download on it, you don't know. And even Apple had to go back and check with the people in the US to get me answers on this, because I bought Frozen on Blu-ray and I was under the impression from what Apple told me I would only get the standard def download because I already had a high def version and that was the disc. But then it let me download the high def version. But the reason why is this is Disney's digital copy plus, and you've got to go through that to get your iTunes copy rather than going straight through iTunes. Now, if you're not confused yet, you will be in a minute, because it gets even more confusing than this. If you buy your movie and it comes from somewhere else, like Paramount with Star Trek, you might get the HD version if you redeem it through Paramount. Or you might not. Or you might get the disc in them with the movie and then you only get the standard def version. And like I said, at this point, you're standing in the shop staring at all these discs thinking, what do I actually get for my money? And there's no way you can find out until you pay, and I think that kind of sucks.
And that's presuming that you actually get what is on the box. I've had
Yeah.
this happen to me as well with, I think it was an Ice Age movie I bought for my kids, and it said, hey, it comes with a digital copy. And I thought, oh, okay, not the newest movie, but that'll be an iTunes download or something similar.
Yeah.
No, it turned out that Fox at the time had its own little distribution service. Never terribly clear to me whether or not it was streaming or download or both. But the reality, when I actually came to punch the code that was in the box that you have to go to from the website, was that the service was actually dead.
Oh,
so
nice.
it's genuinely a real mess, and it's a mess where people miss out, and a mess where, frankly, I think those who want a kind of streaming or digital option on this stuff are probably going to go the copyright breaking route and just rip the discs themselves, which at a legal level, you know, it's not permitted, but at a technical level, it's not actually all that hard.
And I don't have any problem with that, because people were ripping their CDs for years when it was still illegal, and shifting them to iTunes, and eventually the law caught up and said, oh, that's okay. At the moment they're saying, oh no, you can't do that with DVDs, but you're still just shifting ones and zeros. So really all they're trying to do is protect the interests of the movie houses, but they're not actually interested in applying the copyright law in any even-handed way.
Is a complete idiot.
Yes.
Because
I'm not going to argue with you on that.
The reality here is that, for example, if you've got not that they sell new VHS tapes anymore, but if you've got a VHS tape of an existing movie that's also available on DVD and Blu-ray, and there's hundreds of those, you are entitled to make a digital copy of that. You're not entitled to make a digital copy of the exact same DVD or Blu-ray. The law only covers the analog medium. On the other side of the fence, of course, you've got UltraViolet, and a lot of movies offer an UltraViolet option. I'm not a big fan. It's not as flexible, and certainly you don't get the extras. You're a little bit more in favour, though, yeah?
Well, there's a lot of things that frustrate me about UltraViolet, and personally, I'd rather go with the iTunes download. But what I like about UltraViolet is the consistency. Like I said, if I buy the Blu-ray version, I know which retailers I can redeem the high def version from. I know that I'll get the high def version. I can use a service like EasyFlix, which is pretty good and pretty flexible, and also handles digital Disney copy and other stuff. But then you run into other problems, like with EasyFlix, it now works with the Chromecast, which is great because you can watch all these on the TV. Except sometimes you run into a movie where they say, sorry, we don't have the rights to let you watch that on the Chromecast. Even though you've paid for the movie.
The thing that you've bought the rights to use it on your own TV, to watch it yourself in the same way that you could if you had a physical disc, or indeed, in fact, an iTunes download.
Exactly.
Yeah,
at which point you go, why the hell am I bothering with digital downloads? But I don't really blame EasyFlix for this. I don't think they sit there thinking, how can we piss Adam off? Which things can we turn on and off? It's more that these are the rights that they're granted by... Well, actually, maybe they do. But it's also the rights that they're granted by the movie houses. And the movie houses are so fussy about this stuff. And I bet you some movies you can watch in Chromecast in the US, but not here. And the same with extras. You get more extras on the disc in America for no good reason, other than we just live on the wrong side of an imaginary line. So at the end of the day, the whole thing's such a dog's breakfast. As you say, just buy the damn disc and rip it. So Alex, I see Apple's got a deal now in Australia where you can hand over your old iGadgets and get a bit of a discount on a new one. Does this sound like a good deal to you?
Well, on the surface, it sounds kind of generous. The idea is that you take an iPad or an iPhone into any of their 21 Apple stores across the country, and they offer you a trade-in price against a new device, up to $250 for an iPhone. I think it's $215 for an iPad.
Yeah.
And look, if you're lazy and there's an Apple store just down the road, it might, and you had your eye on the new device, it might be all right. But I think with even the smallest bit of research, you can do a lot better.
What is the average price that you've seen? If you wanted to get rid of an iPhone, what would you do? Would you eBay it?
Okay, well look, this is the thing. There's a whole bunch of choices. Apple's pricing is not terrible. If you look at the guys who specifically and deliberately buy old mobiles especially, the general price, unless you've got a really sparkling brand new looking device, the general prices are actually on the same side as Apple's, or maybe even a little bit lower. Having said that, they're offering cash. Apple's offering trade-in value. You've still got to buy a new iPad. You've still got to buy a new iPhone. You don't even have the option to take it in there and say, oh look, can I have this in iTunes credit? Can I have this against a MacBook? No, it doesn't work like that. You've got to actually still stay within their ecosystem, and undeniably that's part of their play here as well. But yeah, you look at Gumtree, you look at eBay, and people are asking for and getting, for example, for the highest model they'll take, because Apple won't take the new models. You can't trade in a 5S, you can't trade in an iPad Air, for example. I don't know why you'd want to, but they won't take them if you did.
Maybe you've damaged it and you want a new one. I don't know. They might think you're trying to do something.
But if it's damaged, it's not clear. Well, no, they say they'll give you an up to value, but that's dependent on condition. If it's damaged, undeniably, they'll give you a lowball figure, without a shadow of a doubt. At the same time, also, there's a couple of models that are excluded. If you're still rocking an iPhone 3GS or an original iPad, they don't want to know about that.
I've got both of them in the house, actually.
Yeah, so do I. The thing is, if you look at the best model, as it were, of the iPhone, the 4S 64 gig model, a little bit of research reveals people selling those for $400 to $500 on Gumtree and eBay. And those are finished sales. Those are people who are actually reaching those kind of figures. Now, if you're only going to get $250, and I'm willing to bet $250 is for a unit that's in all but pristine condition.
Yeah.
Apple's thing is that it's recycling this, and look, in some ways that's laudable. It's better than them ending up in landfill, to be sure. And I guess it's better than putting them into if your local council does e-waste recycling. I guess it's better than that, in that you're getting a trade-in value of some sort, as long as you were planning to buy a new iPhone or iPad, of course. But the thing there is, if you give them something that's in brilliant working order, I have very little doubt that what they will do is they'll do whatever they need to do to refurbish it and sell them on themselves, same as the guys who buy any given brand of smartphone you might choose to name.
And when they refurb them, they charge a lot for them. They only knock about 10 or 15% off the price of a refurb, not much.
Yeah, you can't take even a bright shiny model and get your $250 and walk out with something without actually having an outlay anyway. So they're going to kind of win on both sides of this equation. Equally though, I mean, I'd argue that perhaps, depending on the figure they give you, perhaps just re-gifting is not a terrible idea. It's easy.
That's what I was going to say. I reckon this is half of what this is designed to do. It's designed to try and wipe out the second-hand market and the hand-me-down market. I know that old 3GS I've got might be worth $50 to Apple, but it's worth a lot more to me because one of my kids is using it as a de facto iPod to listen to music on with no SIM card in it. If I had to go out and buy them a new one, it's going to cost me a lot more. But Apple doesn't want that. Apple wants everyone to buy a shiny new one all the time. So getting all these old iPhones out of circulation sounds like a good deal for Apple as well.
It's a bit of a win-win-win. To an extent, I don't think they're too fussed about you handing an iPod on an iPhone turned into an iPod Touch onto someone else, because that's still something where they can take their 30% cut of any apps or movies or music that gets loaded onto it. Yeah. They're still keeping you in the ecosystem. But yeah, you're right. Apple would broadly like everyone to refresh and replenish every year, because that would keep their profit margins as high as possible. Whereas a mobile that, yes, you sell to a mobile monster or to anyone else like that, is one that is then going to get on sold to someone else. That's a sale that Apple's not making. Apple aren't kind of really alone in this. We discussed this a little while back. Telstra's got its whole new phone feeling deal, where you bung them, I think it's about $10 extra a month on top of your mobile plan. And then at the end of a year, as long as you recommit for another 2 years, you can then choose a new mobile to trade in. At the same time, your old mobile's still got to be in quite good working order. And if it's not, then Telstra will just say, well, thanks for the $120, but you're not getting a new phone. Yeah. A lot of these trade-in deals work that way, and I mean that's a lot of the way that this resales market works. It's the same as any kind of second-hand dealer. They're always going to give you a lot less than the going rate, because that's what they're going to sell it on for. In Apple's case, they're either going to sell it on if it's in good enough condition, use it for presumably parts if it isn't, or just straight recycle it if it's, totally bung, and at the same time collect the difference in the new device that you buy. It's not a bad deal, and it's not a bad thing to have an option, another option that is, but I'd certainly suggest anyone thinking about doing it, do your research before you actually sign on the dotted line. Well, that just about wraps it up for this episode of Vertical Hold. I'm off to laugh and point at Adam and his pathetic iPhone 7, because mate, I'm already on the iPhone 9.
What?